So my name is Ian Sullivan. I am the committee clerk assigned to this committee, and it is my job to get us started by getting us a chair. Do I have a nominee or a volunteer for the position of chair of the EDI committee? And if you just want to raise your hand, virtual hand in Zoom, or your physical hand, so I can call on you. And if you are at all concerned or worried about being chair and don't know what it's about, I'll be happy to help you out throughout the meeting, and then we'll have a conversation afterwards as well.
I know Councillor Stephen was interested in being chair. I know she's not here, but I was speaking to her and I'd like to nominate her. I think she'll be a few minutes late, but she was interested unless somebody else would like to be.
Ian,
Yes,
I just had a quick question. This is our first meeting and many of us are new to this structure and to this space. So I'm wondering if you could perhaps explain what it entails and what the responsibilities are, and
certainly,
if there's a possibility of co-chair and so on, because many of us are new to this space.
Certainly. So there are two positions of officers for the committee. There is the chair, who normally runs the meeting, and then there's vice chair, which is their kind of second in command, I would say. So when the chair has to either not be at the meeting or would like to make a statement that is not necessarily neutral, they can give the chair up to the vice chair to make that statement. So vice chair is an important job, but especially if it's your first time ever in a committee like this, it is a really good opportunity to kind of learn the ropes, and you get the chance to build up your skills while not necessarily taking charge right away. Chair as well, and the vice chair, I'll be reaching out after the meeting, and we can have some discussions about some training and additional training. And there's also a handbook that the city provides that goes into great detail about everything that the chair and vice chair needs to do in terms of procedure and everything. We can accept meeting nominations in absentia, because it sounds like Councillor Stephen is interested in being chair. So what we can do is nominate Councillor Stephen as chair of the committee, and we can have a vote on that. And if it's agreed, then she'll be chair, and then we will pick a vice chair. And the vice chair will get us started this afternoon by just running through the agenda. And when Councillor Stephen comes onto the meeting, we can pause, inform her that she has been elected chair, and we can hand the meeting over to her. If that makes sense to the committee. I will just need a mover and a seconder. I'm guessing moving by Councillor Tozo, but I will need a seconder for Councillor Stephen to be chair of the EDI committee. Abraham, perfect. So let me just put that into my notes here. And can I have a show of hands, either by virtual hand in Zoom or by physical hand, all those in favor of Councillor Stephen being elected chair of the EDI committee? Just waiting on a few other votes. Can I see everyone's virtual hand if they're in favor? And that passes. Perfect. Thank you. Do I have a nominee for vice chair or volunteer for vice chair? Ophelia? I just need
sorry, my mic was off. Yes.
You'd be interested in being vice chair?
Yes.
Perfect. Do I have any others? Seeing none, can I have a mover for Ophelia to be vice chair? Moved by Councillor Tozo, seconded by Olamar. Sorry, I just mispronounced your name. I think after this would be a really good time to have everybody kind of introduce themselves as well. Omolara. All those in favor of Ophelia being vice chair? And that is carried. Thank you very much. I can now happily turn it over to you, Ms. Vice Chair. And if you have any questions, I know that you've previously been on the committee, so you know you're a little bit trained in terms of the agenda. But if you have any questions or concerns, just let me know, and I will happily pop in and guide you as well. Thank you, and I'll turn it over to you, Madam Chair.
I'll need a lot of guidance because I don't have the agenda in front of me, so sorry about that.
No worries. The first thing we need to do is call the meeting to order.
Okay, so I can do that. So the meeting's called to order.
Next is the approval of the agenda. And so we'll need a mover and seconder for that. And yeah.
So who would like to move to approve the agenda? Sunita. And the seconder, Councillor Tozo. And then we vote to approve. And all in favor, you can raise your hands. Okay, motion approved.
Next will be the confirmation of the minutes from the EDI meeting held on Monday, December 12th, 2022, and we'll need a mover and seconder for that as well. And if there's any corrections that need to be made, please speak now.
So who would like to move to approve the previous minutes? I see Sunita's hands up. And seconder. Ashley. Are there, and how, go to approve, everyone needs to vote? Okay, yes, approved.
Perfect. Next is disclosure. Oh, sorry.
Oh, just a second, I think there's a question.
Ian, can
if I may,
note
just
that
a
I
couple of
abstain?
clarifying.
Oh, just 1 second, Danielle, it's, we'll have Sunita and then Danielle.
Sorry, just a couple of, perhaps I need enlightenment with this procedural. The fact that Councillor looking to be, and we should have had a discussion when we made the motion, and this is more procedural, like without, and I was hesitant to put my hand up without having met the individual online, without them having been present. So in light of the fact that this is an equity, diversity, inclusion meeting, perhaps things can be shifted on the agenda so that we can, we could have met Councillor and then had that vote. That's one thing. Secondly, again, procedurally, for the new colleagues joining this committee who were not present for the December meeting, are they okay to be voting on the minutes for that meeting? Because that's just again, I'm looking for some clarification.
Yes. So for the number one, we require at least a chair or vice chair, or else the meeting cannot begin. So unfortunately, we can postpone one or the other, but if we postpone both, we can't proceed with the meeting. So what we can do is, if we would like to postpone the full moving of a chair, because we did have Ophelia become vice chair and she is present because Councillor Stevens, hello. We did have you nominated as chair of the committee, but in absentia. But if the committee would like to prefer, we can postpone that. And so the committee can have a conversation with Councillor Steven if you would like. And then we can move forward from there at the next meeting, because we can have the election of chair at the next meeting. And in terms of the minutes, so normally it would need somebody that's previously at the meeting to at least move or second, but it doesn't matter who is on the committee as of now. We do need a confirmation of those minutes, otherwise there is no record of that meeting. So procedurally it is correct to, even if you weren't on the committee at the time, to still make the appointment, or still make the vote of that of the minutes at that time.
Terrific. Thank you.
So there's Danielle's hand up, I believe.
It was just to say, Ian, can you note that I was abstaining from voting on the minutes because I was not at that meeting?
So there is no abstaining in the procedure bylaw. There can either be no or yes. So your vote will be counted as no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Sunita, was that answered your question in a way to you?
Yes, I think, and which is why I consciously moved the approval of the minutes for the last meeting, knowing that I was there. And then I just wanted to, and if the committee is okay with Councillor Stevens' election, that's fine. I just wanted to make a point, and I wanted to make sure that everyone sort of understood that and had a moment to reflect on that. But I'll be fine with the decision of the majority.
Ophelia, I do see Councillor Stevens' hand, and I do see Mohammed's hand as well.
So yeah, I saw Mohammed's hands first and then Councillor Stevens. So Mohammed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. I was suggesting that probably if we can have a round of introduction, because that's what I was understanding, that most of the members of this committee are new, and this is an opportunity for everyone to introduce themselves, if that's okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
I agree. Councillor Stephen?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. I apologize, I'm late. I was teaching until 10 and I just got home. So I would be happy to chair, but if there is someone else who would like to do it, that's absolutely fine with me. This is not it has to be me. But if the job needs to be filled, I'd be absolutely willing to do it. Thank you.
So through you, Madam Vice Chair, what we can do is, it'll technically under the minutes, it'll fall under other business. So and when you're reading the minutes for the next meeting, it'll look like the introductions happened later in the meeting than they did now. But I would suggest maybe we quickly do a run through so everyone gets to know each other before we proceed on with the business of the meeting. I do also want to share quickly that we do have another meeting at noon that will require the Zoom platform. So not to rush anybody, but we do have 2 hours, which is a good amount of time. But we do have 2 items of business on the agenda as well as the briefing. So I want to make sure we can complete our agenda before we are forced to adjourn. With that in mind, I would love to have everyone introduce themselves, and then and if you are okay with that, Madam Vice Chair, we can either I will defer to you. Either we'll have the election of office chair at the next meeting, so everyone can have an opportunity to kind of discuss with one another, or we can move forward with it as we did earlier in the meeting. Up to you, Madam Vice Chair.
I think having people introduce themselves, and as I know, can be overwhelming if you're new, and have a time to absorb, and then we can do a vote at the next meeting if everyone's agreeing. So I'll just call in people's name according to my screen and go that way. So first person is Danielle. Would you like to introduce? Or I can start if you don't want to.
No, it's okay. Tanshe Daniel Lucie, Dishna Kashun, Utapamisawakri Verush, Deshin Kyo, the territoire de Haudenosaunee Anishinaabe. So I'm Danielle Lucie. I'm Red River Métis from Treaty 1 territory and the homeland of the Métis Nation. And I hold space here in Kingston as a visitor. I'm a mom with 3 young kids, and I'm currently affiliated with the Royal Military College of Canada and Queen's University. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you. And then next I have Ashley.
Hi, I'm Ashley. I'm a registered early childhood educator. I also do some advocacy work for adoptees and talk about adoption trauma and stuff like that. And I've been living in Kingston since 2018. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say, but yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Tozo.
Thank you. I'm Councillor Tozo, Councillor for Kings Court Rideau, and I am very passionate about equity, diversity, and inclusion in an EDI lens. And we sat in this committee in December, and I'm really looking forward to working collaboratively with this group and putting forward a more inclusive lens for the city of Kingston and to council as well.
Thank you. Sunita.
Good morning. I'm Sunita Gupta. I use the pronouns she, her, and this is my 2nd year on this Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Committee. I also work as a consultant in this space, and I am excited to be here with all of you. Thank you.
Abraham. Abraham.
Sorry, I was on mute.
Okay.
My name is Abraham Kyriakos. I'm by profession, I am an electrical engineer working with Alstom Transportation, previously Bombardier. And I'm living in Kingston for the last 13 years. And I'm also the secretary of Kingston Malayali Association, which is a not-for-profit community organization. That's how I, connected with the EDI and City of Kingston and so on. Yeah, and basically, I'm from India.
Thank you. Councillor Stephen.
Hi, everyone. Good to see all of you here today. So I am one of the newly elected city councillors. I've prior to this, worked as a full-time teacher for over a decade, doing a lot of anti-racism work in the past few years. Again, as I've learned more, trying to be an LGBTQIA plus ally forever. And one of the things I want to learn more about is accessibility with respect to physical disabilities in particular. Ableism is something that I realize I haven't had a lot of learning about, and I want to do more. Really care about truth and reconciliation as well. And I'm, through all of this work, coming to recognize the privilege I have as a white woman and wanting to use that for good instead of just, hey, everything's fine for me. Want to actually help lift up other voices. It's not about me, but I want to use what I have to help. So that's where I'm coming from. Thank you.
Thank you. Maria.
Hi, everyone. This is my first time here. My name is Maria Verk. I'm a mother of 3, and I work for Kingston Frontenac Housing Corporation. And I hope being here, I'll help out to make changes here in Kingston. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Ian?
Sure. So my name is Ian Sullivan. I use the pronouns he, him. I am a committee clerk with the City of Kingston. So you'll probably see a lot of emails from me going forward for the rest of the year. I'm always available as a resource. So if you have any questions or comments or concerns, you can always email me and I will always get back to you as soon as I can. And I have lived now in the City of Kingston for just about 5 years. I arrived just before the pandemic. So it's been quite the wild ride ever since then. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you. Laura?
Hi everyone. Yeah, my name is Lara Luko. It's my first time here, and it's nice to be here. I am a member of the African community here in Kingston. I moved to Kingston in 2019 when I came to study at Queen's University. I was away for a short period, but I've been back since 2021. So yeah, it's nice to be here, and I'm looking forward to working with everyone on this committee.
And is that Mohammed? Is that it? Have I missed any? Mohammed, yeah, there you are.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mohammed Hassan. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I am the manager of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion with the City of Kingston. And part of my role is to work very closely with this committee, and really looking forward to this opportunity with all the returning members and the new members of this committee. Thank you very much.
I think I got everyone. My name is Ophelia Rigaud. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I have been in Kingston since 2006, originally from Toronto. And I work as an equity and diversity trainer. So thank you, everyone. So if I can get Ian some assistance of what's next.
Yes, so the next item is on the agenda is disclosure of pecuniary interest.
So this is where we disclose if we have any basically conflict of interest. So
Yes.
I don't see any hands or anything in the comments.
I see none, Madam Vice Chair.
Okay.
The next is delegations, and there are none on the agenda, so we can just move on.
Okay.
The next item of business is briefings. So Mohammed Hassan, Manager, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, will be present to speak to the committee regarding the Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion work plan. So there you are. So I believe he will introduce, and he has a presentation for you all.
Okay, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to reinstate that how thrilled and excited I am to be in front of this committee to present the Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Work Plan 2023-2026. I must add that this is the first multi-year work plan at City of Kingston that is in front of you for approval and recommendation. Next slide, please. So I want to take this opportunity to acknowledge that the city of Kingston is located on the traditional homelands of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Huron-Wendat, and we thank these nations for their care and stewardship over this shared land. I also want to recognize that I started my Canadian journey in Treaty 1 territory, and it was really heartwarming to see somebody from Treaty 1 being part of this um, committee. So I just wanted to recognize my gratitude towards the community that hosted me and recognized me as one of their own, and with their open arms in Treaty 1 territory when I was new to Canada. So like really feel really humbled and gratitude towards all Winnipeg and Manitoba. Thank you very much. Next slide, please. So other than this work plan that's in front of you, it's also the opportunity for us to take the Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion to the next step. And we are also proposing the Equity, Diversity, Inclusion vision statement, mission statement, and core values for the city of Kingston. In front of you is the proposed EDI vision statement. We envision a corporation that fosters inclusivity by utilizing its diverse staff's combined abilities, knowledge, and viewpoints, resulting in a constructive work atmosphere, sense of belonging, and outstanding outcomes that benefit all individuals living in or visiting Kingston. Thank you. Next slide, please. The EDI mission statement for the Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion at City of Kingston is to be dedicated to a barrier-free corporation that's accessible, inclusive, and free from harassment, bullying, and discrimination. Our goal is to eliminate obstacles that have affected excluded individuals and groups. To achieve this, the city must maintain a fair and inclusive culture, ensuring unbiased policies and practices, and offering equitable opportunities. This is an essential part of city's culture, strategy, and operations as we strive to improve the experiences of all Kingston residents. Next slide, please. In front of you are the core idea values, and I know it's not a typo. Like I have cracked this joke earlier in a couple of other meetings, but I will get back to the purposely putting the wrong spelling of idea shortly. But you can see the core values that Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion wants to enforce and work on is active support, not just for the staff, but for the community as well. Advocacy on behalf of the systemically excluded community groups and individuals, empathy, empowerment, and education, the 3 E's that are really important to take our mission forward. We also are recommending the core idea values for council and staff that are not part of the Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion in particular. Their values recommended are diverse workforce, inclusive workplace, fairness and equity, accessible and barrier-free services, transparency and accountability. And together, the value that we want to promote is a corporation that encourages collaboration, flexibility, fairness, and continuous improvement. Thank you. Next slide, please. Also, with this report, we want to bring forward the EDI office mandate so that there is more clarity towards what Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Office at City of Kingston is doing and what it is mandate to do. The first is collaborate with all departments at the corporation to develop and implement frameworks, policies, and initiatives that foster an institutional culture of engagement, excellence, innovation, and accountability in advancing equity, diversity, and inclusion. Develop and identify a spectrum of learning opportunities for the council and staff on equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility. Develop and collaborate with employee resource group to cultivate equitable pathways at the corporation. Next slide, please. Engage the community with EDI, about EDI via information exchange, knowledge sharing, and partnership. Contribute to developing equitable and inclusive leadership skill sets and a culture of respect for diversity within the corporation and the broader community. Support the development of a workforce that works effectively in an equitable, diverse, inclusive, accessible, and pluralistic society by acquiring equity, anti-racism, and intercultural competence. Next slide, please. Provide a center repository for equity, diversity, inclusion, accessibility, and decolonial resources. Maintain knowledge and awareness of the best new and upcoming EDI trends and their potentials. Next slide, please. Now comes the part of the priorities for 2023-2026. Most of you who were part of this process in 2021, 2022 are aware of the previous priorities that were pretty similar, but this time we have broken down a few priorities into further to enhance our objectives and priorities. The first one is similar to what we had in our previous year, the organizational culture. In that is where the initiatives under organizational culture will focus on addressing challenges and barrier in the culture of the corporation that impacts the equity, diversity, inclusion of its employee base. We strongly believe that is important, that if we want to promote the culture of equity, diversity, and inclusion, it needs to start from within the organization and its culture. Then the second priority, by no means it's second to anything else, is attract, recruitment, and retain. These initiatives will address organizational change and talent acquisition that impact diversity, equity, and inclusion, and improve the candidate's experience or impact sources of diverse groups of candidates. Next is policies and procedures. Initiatives under this will focus on improving organization-wide policies, practices, and processes that directly impact the state of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the organization. There are two opportunities with policies and procedures. There are some corporate policies and procedures that are very internal facing, but at the same time, there's a lot of policies and procedure that are external public facing that City of Kingston have, which we will be discussing shortly. The next priority is learning and development. These initiatives are to ensure that not just the staff, but council is equipped with EDI concept with context and a better ability to connect the concepts to their day-to-day relevance and application. A part of this learning and development opportunity took place last week, where the City of Kingston City Council went through an EDI orientation process, which is, I must add, is a historic moment, because this is the first City Council ever to go through this learning opportunity. And we also made sure that we can create a safe learning environment by keeping it a closed meeting, so that everyone can ask questions without being judged for their learning thirst and craving for answers. And last but definitely not the least, in fact, the biggest priority for 2023-2026 is the community engagement and support. Initiatives under this priority will enhance collaboration between the City of Kingston, community partners, and residents to support and share resources. Next slide, please. So any work plan can only be successful if we have the shared accountabilities of different departments and different stakeholders in the corporation. You can see that in front of you, different levels of the corporation are mentioned in terms of the accountability. The council to lead by example by building community support for and demonstrating a solid commitment to equity, diversity, inclusion. CMT, which is corporate management team, which comprises of commissioners and chief administrative officer, to champion inclusion as a core value and ensure accountability through an integrated approach. The directors and managers at the corporation to use their sphere of influence in establishing a respectful and equitable work environment and empower and support employees to their best work. And all staff to demonstrate leadership and work together to create inclusive workplaces. Employees take individual responsibilities to treat each other with respect and dignity, and to highlight systemic barriers in their area of influence. I must add that it's important that it's every individual in the corporation to take this as a responsibility to highlight the systemic barriers in their area, because it's much easier for an individual who's working day in day out in a particular field to be able to see what is not being offered and who is not being able to benefit from the current and present offerings. Along with that, the Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Office will act as a partner, advisor, and subject matter expert in providing support and resources in building a diverse workforce and creating an inclusive workplace. Next slide, please. Now I'll come back to the typo, the intentional typo that you saw, and I've been promoting this, that the future for equity, diversity, and inclusion is IDEA, and IDEA with double I. So next slide, please. And what is an idea for Kingston is indigenization, inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility. I believe that it's important for us to recognize that we cannot create any inclusive, equity-based, and diverse policy, practice, or any kind of systemic change without including the accessibility and indigenization into every practice. Next slide, please. So you will be reading a lot about the IDEA lens throughout this work plan, and the lens is right in front of you. So every policy review, every procedural change that we will be doing, we are committing to that this IDEA lens will be used when we will be reviewing any current policies, implementing new policies and programs or procedures. There are certain components of this lens. The first one is indigenization and decolonization, social equity, intersectional approach, systemic change, and accessible services. So going forward, whenever we will be working with other departments or community groups, we will be looking at these aspects whenever we are rolling out a new program or reviewing a current program or policy. Next slide, please. And in developing this work plan, the fundamental dimension of diversity that we focused on are right in front of you. There are certain dimensions that we want to target for this 4 years work plan, and of course the intersectional dimensions within these fundamental dimensions. You can see the indigenous, ethnoculture, francophone, newcomers, people with disabilities, people with no income, multi-faith, gender diversity, youth, unhoused population, older adults, and 2S LGBTQ plus community. So the programs and policies that are being introduced through this work plan, along with the IDEA lens, are also being targeted through these dimensions of diversity to ensure there's an equitable services offered through the corporation. Next slide, please. And in the development of this work plan, there were certain guiding principles that we focused on. The truth and reconciliation is definitely one of the most important guiding principle that the City of Kingston's Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion is focusing on. Allyship and social cohesion, ongoing dialogue with the community and within the corporation, diverse engagement, transparency, and accountability. Creating the sense of belonging is also very important for not just for the staff internally, but for the community at large in Kingston. Inclusive and equitable services, community partnership, and enhanced representation. Next slide, please. I just want to also add one very important element of the Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Advisory Committee's work plan that is also in front of this group that you are seeing today. Uh, um, and the Office of Equity, Diversity, Inclusion work plan is pretty much embedded into this advisory committee's work plan. So uh, as part of the report number EDI 23002, we are also proposing this committee's work plan for the meetings that will take place. There are some important elements that you'll notice that you will be asked to support us in reviewing some key deliverables from the corporation. And it's not just going to be the EDI office that will be delivering these reports. There are other key departments from the corporation that will be bringing their reports forward. I'm not going to go into the details of each objective or goal within the work plan, but I'm going to quickly give you a small highlight of some of the actions and deliverables, how they are presented in this work plan. So each action deliverable is associated with one of the 5 priorities that we are recommending. And then there is a lead and partners, in most cases, internal leads and partners from the corporation. And in some cases, community partners are also identified. Then in the next column, you'll see this committee's involvement. There are certain things that will be that because of their corporate nature, they will be internal and we will be sharing that for information only. And there will be certain things where we will be consulting with this committee and requesting feedback and input. And then there are few actions and deliverables that are not time bound, although they're very little because they're going to be ongoing basis. For example, the drafting of social media communication and educational information for significant national and provincial days. We cannot have a time limit to that. It's going to be an ongoing process. But then there are certain objectives and deliverables that are there's a time frame assigned to them depending on the magnitude of the deliverable. It's either assigned in a little bit earlier, and in some cases it's a little bit later during this work plan for 4 years. Next slide, please. With this, I want to thank you everyone for listening to my briefing. I'm open to questions, comments, and feedback. Thank you very much.
Do you have any comments or Danielle?
Yeah, thank you for that presentation. I'm glad to see that you've included indigenization as a separate pillar, because often in these conversations, you know, we're all kind of lumped together, and rising to the TRC, obviously a huge priority for me and my family, but I think also something that the city needs to be really thoughtful of as you move forward. Thank you for that, my friend. Merci.
Sunita?
Thank you, through you, Chair. Great presentation, and again, very encouraging for those of us who have lived here for so long to see that the city has a multi-year plan, and it seems to have, it's very intentional, it's very well thought out. So thank you for that, for your leadership in that, Mohammed. One thing that perhaps I might have even chatted with some of you offline, I find, and also as Councillor Stephen had mentioned when we're talking about accessibility, I do have an issue with a lot of our parking meters that now require for everyone to have an app. It's an assumption that everyone has a parking app, or they have a credit card, and there are a lot of meters that do not take money anymore. We cannot be talking about all of this and then also turning a bit of a, like, okay, well, this is what perhaps it's been, the services have been sent or to another a service provider, third party, and we cannot just sort of turn away from that, because that is something that is happening. It's a huge assumption that everyone is comfortable connecting the app to their credit card or has a credit card, and how can we address that before it actually becomes too late? And with the presence of two city councilors here, perhaps this voice can be amplified at another level. Thank you.
Mohammed?
Yep. I just want to take this opportunity to thank both Danielle and Sunita for their vote of support and encouragement. And I also want to address that the accessibility of parking is one of the deliverables in the work plan, although we did not see it from the perspective of the technological accessibility, but there was definitely the other aspects of accessibility that we wanted to address in this work plan. But this is definitely something that we can look into to make sure that all city services that are being offered are offered through the IDEA lens, which is one of the umbrella deliverable that you will see in our policies and procedures priority. Thank you very much.
Councillor, thanks, Mohammed. Councillor Tozo?
Hi, thank you, Chair, through you. I would just comment that I know that parking has been an issue and the focus of this council, and I think that there's going to be more solutions to that proposed by end of year. So I would just say hang tight, and it is something that we are really, I know a bunch of councillors have been working on to try to fix, because that the accessibility component of fee for parking is something that we're quite aware is an issue. So we are working on it. So hang tight.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't see any other questions.
If there are no other questions, then Madam Vice Chair, we can move on to the business items.
Okay.
Quickly before we go in, members of the committee, if you are able to keep your cameras on at as much as possible, that would be appreciated, because I need to make sure that we don't lose quorum. I can still see you. It's just also for the public seeing the video. So the first item of business, Madam Vice Chair, is item 8A, which is the 2023 committee work plan. You already heard a little bit from Mohammed about it, but I believe he would like to just give a brief overview of what the work plan has entailed, and then we can have any comments or questions about the work plan itself.
Okay, Mohammed?
And I'm back. So the Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Advisory Committee work plan, as I mentioned earlier in my briefing, that it's divided into different meetings. The one that we are having right now in February 2023, there are two reports in front of this committee, Office of Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Multi-Year Work Plan, and the Advisory Committee's Work Plan 2023. In April, in front of this committee will be the quarterly update from this office, and also the review of newcomers welcome gift that City of Kingston has been offering for quite some time. But now we want to review it and see if it's more equitable and accessible for every newcomer to Kingston. And also we will be seeking guidance from this committee on Emancipation Day planning and Canada Day programming with the help of Arts and Cultural Services and Rec and Leisure Services. In June 2023, we will be bringing two reports to this committee. One is focused on the Intercultural Arts Festival planning, and the other one will be accessibility office updates for this committee. And then in August, there will be quarterly update from the Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion and we will also be bringing a community related update on anti-racism working group, which is a working group established by different community stakeholders with support of City of Kingston and several other community partners. In October 2023, we will be presenting the office updates again for quarter 3, and we will also be bringing a report on niche cases, community call with the help of Heritage Services. And we will also be bringing a draft for consultation on medicine and smudge policy for the City of Kingston. And there will be an update briefing on workplace inclusion charter with the help of strategy, innovation, and partnership at City of Kingston. And then in December, we will have the quarter 4 updates from the Office of Equity, Diversity, Inclusion. We will be bringing a report on community standards bylaw from Legal Services. And we will also be bringing to this committee for discussion on Urban Indigenous Advisory Circle. So that is the work plan for 2023 for this committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Stephen?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Vice Chair. Mohammed, I'm just wondering if you could speak to, I'm just looking at the monthly plan. And a couple of things I was wondering about. It's you've done an excellent job, you and the team. I'm wondering about Pride, National Indigenous Peoples Day. These are both things that are taking place in June, and National Day for Truth and Reconciliation in September. I'm just wondering if those are included in something else I'm just not understanding, or if that's something separate. I'll leave it to you. Thank you.
Mohammed?
Yeah, they are definitely included in City of Kingston's Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion work plan. So you will see in the second report that is in front of this committee that we will be working with different departmental associates in ensuring that City of Kingston's staff are participating in a Pride Parade, and also for the National Indigenous Peoples Day. The most important part of our role has been to support the community organization in leading that initiative. City does not play a major role in taking charge of it. Our job is to make sure that everything that community is asking for, and the Indigenous community members and groups in Kingston and the area, whatever they need to make sure we are able to create a better experience for the community groups to recognize that day. So we play an administrative role in it, and the reason why it's not being discussed at the committee, because we will not be taking charge of the programming for this particular day, recognizing that City being predominantly a colonial institute, we do not have the capacity, or it's not, and also it's not our place to take charge of an event of such magnitude for Indigenous community groups, not just in Kingston, but all over Canada. Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying. I guess it was just a case of understanding that it's not on there because it's not the committee's job. Thanks.
Any other questions? Danielle?
Yeah, sorry. Those comments, did that apply to the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation as well, September 30th? Or were you speaking only about Indigenous Peoples Day? Because I do see a role for a colonial institution like a city in acknowledging, recognizing, and working on September 30th.
Madam Chair, through you, for the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, city has an important role to play, mainly because it is for institutions and settlers of different aspects and different intersections to recognize the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's report. And we also want to make sure that the Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Advisory Committee is able to provide input on that programming. But also we want to make sure that there's educational opportunity for the city staff on and around the day. And I also want to take this opportunity to recognize that while it's one day being recognized as a Truth and Reconciliation Day, it's important for institutions like the Corporation of City of Kingston to embed Truth and Reconciliation as part of their daily practices, which we are trying to create through this work plan. Thank you.
Sorry, it was muted. Are there any comments or questions? No, I don't see anything.
All right, so normally at this point, we would turn it over to members of the public to offer their comments and things. However, Madam Vice Chair, there are no members of the public currently in the meeting, so we can move on from there. So there is a motion before the committee. It is that the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Advisory Committee recommend to Council that Council approve the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Advisory Committee Work Plan 2023 attached as Exhibit A to report number EDI-23-002. And you will need a mover and a seconder for that motion, Madam Vice Chair.
So can I have a mover for that motion, please? Councillor Tozo, and a seconder? Sunita? All in favor? Okay, thank you.
And the next item of business before the committee is item B, which is the Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Work Plan 2023 to 2026. I believe Mohammed has already kind of gone over that, so we can just go right into any additional questions the committee has.
Do we have any additional questions? Councillor Stephen?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Vice Chair. Mohammed, I was just having a look at, so the 5 priorities. I love how that's organized. Thank you. Great report. And one of the things I was wondering, so you and I had a conversation previously about a resident who approached me that marriage is not possible at City Hall. And I was wondering if that fits in somewhere, and if so, where it might fit in. Thank you.
Mohammed?
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. In priority 3, policies and procedures, the third line, review the city's current practices with idea lens and recommend changes. The reason why we have kept this open is because we do not want to just target one gap in our services or practices. We want to review everything from this lens ongoing basis. So one of them was definitely what you brought forward about the gap in service. But also we want to recognize that there could be multiple other practices and policies which are not listed here in this multi-year work plan that may be affecting community, specifically systemically excluded community groups in different ways and creating barriers for them to accessing high quality services that city strives to provide. So that's why we want to make sure that we are continuously on an ongoing basis reviewing city's practices from this lens, and also recommend changes. And every time we will be bringing those recommendations, other than the regular reports, this committee will be consulted and will be asked to provide input on it. So unlike many other internal for information only, this particular item on the work plan, the EDI committee's involvement is to provide consultation and input. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed.
Thank you. And I see Laura's hand and then Councillor Tozo.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I missed this while Mohammed gave the presentation, but I just want to know if it's possible, like once the activities for once the work plan has been passed and activities have been fixed for this year, is there opportunity to maybe add new items or make changes to the work plan?
Mohammed?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Through you, there's always opportunity to add new items to the work plan if there is a need. But if you're talking about the Office of Equity, Diversity, Inclusion work plan, we sometimes, as per need basis, we have to revisit the priorities, which is one of the recommendation that we are asking this committee to make, which Ian will be reading shortly, that that will give us the authority to alter these work plans on as per the needs or emerging situations, because we also want to recognize that the work around equity, diversity, inclusion, accessibility, and indigenization cannot be bound with any work plan. Like sometimes we have planned for several years, and there's something that needs to be addressed right away, and we cannot make a justification that, oh, this work plan is already in motion, so we cannot stop and address another problem or another challenge or another barrier. So we are also the motion that will be coming forward to you is definitely one of the unique ones where that will give us the opportunity to alter the work plan as needed. I hope that answers your question, Lara. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Tozo.
Thank you, Chair, through you. Two questions, I guess, for Mohammed. First one is, we've talked about gender neutral bathrooms at City Hall, and you said that they would be on board later this year, which is encouraging. Are we going to do a full corporate, including public facing analysis of gender neutral washrooms, and will that be presented to the committee? And I have a follow-up question.
Mohammed?
Madam Chair, through you, the identification of gender inclusive washrooms in current city facilities based on the feasibility and update of signage with the support of facilities management and construction service is on the agenda of this work plan. So it's not just going to be for the City Hall, but it's also going to be for all the current city facilities. But also I want to add that we will be with support of this committee and also the Municipal Accessibility Advisory Committee. We will be reviewing the city's codes for the accessible building code, the FADs. We all want to make sure that all these aspects are embedded into that as well, so that the accessibility is not just seen as the one-dimensional physical accessibility, but it's also looking at the different dimensions within the spectrum of accessible services. Thank you.
And thank you. And I just to follow up, and I don't mean it for this to sound glib, but it's going to come out as glib. Why are we piloting a hygiene product? Why is that a pilot? Are we just doing it? Providing hygiene products in all staff bathrooms. It just seems Why don't we just do it?
Madam Chair, through you.
Yes,
It's
Mohammed.
more of a budgetary and uh, situation that we want to make sure that, and also we want to make sure that there's a process that allows us to keep that, like the dispensers being refilled. Uh, uh, but it's not that we are going to just keep it to that particular facility. And the reason why we want to do a pilot first is because there will be certain washrooms and toilets that will be converted to the gender neutral spaces. So if we well are able to create a continuous program right away, then changing that policy or program is slightly difficult. But if we use the pilot, that means that if after a certain time we can revisit and see what's working, what's not working, what needs to be more. And we also want to make sure that cities um, employee resource groups, two employee resource groups in particular, the Women's Network and 2Ls LGBTQ employee resource group, are on board with the outcomes of this particular pilot, to make sure that they are feeling that nothing is missing. Based on my own male privilege, I don't see myself being the by anywhere near the right person to uh, deliver this service without proper consultation, and we want to make sure that there is more room to improve. That's why it's a pilot program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. And I have to recognize my own positionality when we talk about these issues, but when I see something on a report and I think there's a gap, I think it's incumbent upon me to point it out. As a political representative, I try to take things and make sure that they have a voice on council. So thank you. And thank you for recognizing your positionality. I will also take this point to recognize mine. And people on the committee, I am who I am. By all means, call me out if I step over those bounds. I'm fully open and recognizing my own humility when it comes to that. So thank you, Mohammed. Thank you, members of the committee.
Thank you. All questions are good questions because we get more information. So I think that's important to acknowledge. Are there any more questions? I don't see any.
Okay, so the motion in front of the committee, again, there are no members of the public, so we can move on past that point, is that the Equity, Diversity and Inclusion Advisory Committee recommend to council that the Office of Equity, Diversity and Inclusion Work Plan 2022 to 2026, attached as Exhibit A to report number EDI-23-003 be received, and that the manager, Equity, Diversity and Inclusion, amend the work plan as required and report back to the Equity, Diversity and Inclusion Advisory Committee. And you'll need a mover and a seconder for that, Madam Vice Chair.
So who would like to move? Abraham, and seconder Maria. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, everyone. Sorry, Natalie, did you want to say something? Oh, you were just voting. So, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I just want to make sure.
The next item on business on the agenda, Madam Vice Chair, is motions, and there are none on the agenda. Then it is notices of motion, and again, there are none on the agenda. Other business, we had our introductions, but I do notice we have Natalia, who arrived a little bit late, but if you would like to give yourself a brief introduction, I think that would be the best time right now to do so.
And I think there was somebody else here that I missed originally. I'm not sure if there's city staff, Samantha?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm sorry that I missed you. My apologies. So Natalia, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, and I'm sorry. My apologies for being late. I was juggling some work commitments there. Excuse me. I'm Natalia Martinelli Luengo. I'm a longtime citizen of Kingston. I'm originally from Venezuela, and I work at Keys Newcomer Services as a refugee child and youth worker and settlement worker. But I'm actually also moving into a role as an inclusion advisor with the Workplace Charter Project. So I deeply passionate about diversity, equity, and inclusion from personal experiences and through my clients' eyes, and really deeply committed to making this a more inclusive city and community. So thank you very much. It's an honor to be here with you all.
Thank you. Ruthka? Sorry if I pronounced your name incorrectly.
That's okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Through you, my name is Samyukta Puntambekar. My pronouns are she, her. I work with Mohammed as a project analyst for the EDI office. Really happy and extremely honored and humbled to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda, Madam Vice Chair, is correspondence, and there was none received, so that is blank. The date of the next meeting is Monday, April 24th at 1 p.m. Just a note again for everyone on the committee, 1 p.m. is the normal meeting time. I apologize for this one being so early in the day. And other than that, it's just adjournment. And so we'll need a mover and a seconder for that, Madam Vice Chair.
So I'm just going to turn off my camera because it's just blinking. 1 second, please. There we go. So can I have a mover to adjourn the meeting? Councillor Tozo, and a seconder, Maria. All in favor? Okay, all carried. Thank you.